Angel and Uptown Girl at 3:15. You are listening to BBC Radio Nottingham. Now, whether it's D.H. Lawrence, the story of Robin Hood or the mining heritage, there's no denying Nottinghamshire has a rich history and legend. For father and son, Frank and Joe Earp, a love for that history has inspired them to work together. You'll hear more about their book, Secret Nottingham. They are here for you this afternoon. Hello to the pair of you. So father and son team working together. I like this.
That's right.
Yeah. Frank, you've got your arms crossed at the moment. Is it a harmonious relationship?
Yes, I think. I think it's a case of. I always describe it as a sorcerer's apprentice.
I see.
And it's one of those things where the apprentice is beginning to outdo the master
and take over.
And take over. Is that your plan, Joe? To take over?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm assuming I've got it the right way round. You, of course, might be the sorcerer, and you might be the apprentice.
Thank you for that.
So, talk to me about history. I mean, clearly this is a family link here, but where does the love of history begin?
I think it's. I've got four sons. Joe's the youngest of the four, and I've always tried to teach them history from the point of view that they've had an ancestor that's lived through that time. So when you look back, to be here today, like everybody, you've got to have had an ancestor. And when looking at history, you should always put yourself back in that ancestor's place.
I see, so you bring it to life.
Bring it to life for them, to show them. And also, as Joe was saying on the way here, you can't really know where you are in life until you know your own history, and your own history is part of bigger history.
That's what I've always thought. You know, to know where you're going in life, it's important to know where you've come from.
Yeah.
And everything that we take advantage for today has gone through some sort of historical process, and that's what I think to myself. You know, why has that happened? And yeah, as Winston Churchill said, the job of the historian is to find out what happened and why, and that's what we try and do.
Yeah. Now, when your dad was going through all of this when you were growing up, have you always received it in a positive manner, or?
Yeah. We always went up and down the country, didn't we, visiting castles and historical sites, houses, and I used to be a little bit bored. That was in the class.
I love the fact you admit to this. This is great.
Yeah, that was in the classroom.
Yeah.
But when we actually went out and visited these sites, it came alive for me.
Yeah.
These sites came alive. History was coming alive before my eyes.
There is something, isn't there, about the way certain subjects are taught in the classroom and how it does need to be brought to life in that way.
Yeah.
And Nottinghamshire, I mean, why Nottinghamshire? Why is your passion? And you're wearing a T-shirt today, Joe, that says Nottingham Hidden History Team, which of course is your company, your Facebook site, all of that kind of stuff. But what is it about Nottinghamshire history, rather than it being family-led or?
I think for me, it's just a simple fact that we live here, and I've lived here all my life, and you've lived here all your life, haven't you?
Yes.
It's also a specific area of history to be interested in. You know, history is such a wide subject, but to look at local history is more a specific area, and I take great delight in doing that.
I don't like to measure people's success based on the number of Facebook followers that they have, but you guys, I am going to mention it nevertheless, you've got 25,000 people who follow your page on Facebook.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's working? Why do you think that there are that many people who want to read more about history?
Well, the answer to that was that on Facebook, there was no other sites before my site. I set my site up around 2011, and I posted 2 old photographs that were in our archives of 2 old Nottingham pubs, and overnight I had something like 4,000 likes because of these 2 photographs, and ever since then the sites grew and grew and grew. But I think it's a simple fact that there was nothing else going before our site on Facebook, and Facebook's such a popular site now anyway, but it's really took off, as well as our other sites as well.
I think, as has been said before, it's the way we tell it.
Yeah, so it's the storytelling side of it.
It's the storytelling side of it. I've never really regarded myself primarily as an historian. I've always regarded myself as a folklorist first, and I've taken folklore, so that's sort of the stories of the people, and then gone at history from you're actually uncovering more of the people's story rather than what appears on the printed page. So rather than looking at 1066 from the point of view Battle of Hastings or whatever, you look at personal stories and look at history from that personal level again.
Stay there for us, both of you, if you wouldn't mind. You're listening to Frank and Joe. They're talking about their love of history, their love of Nottinghamshire history, and if there's one thing that is always good to know, it's secrets. You'll hear a few of those after this.
Writing a book about
Grace, and You Don't Owe Me, 22 minutes past 3 on BBC Radio Nottingham. You're here at the moment with Frank and Joe Earp, who are talking about, I suppose, partly working together, your love of history, your love of local history as well, and you have come together and written this book, Secret Nottingham. What's it about, Secret Nottingham?
Nowadays, publishers don't take on general works, so you can't just go to a publisher and say, I'm writing a book about Nottingham, will you publish this? What generally happens now is they publish a series of books. So, as with Secret Nottingham, you'll get Secret Newark, Secret Mansfield, and authors are then asked to take on the subject. So you have to write within that style. But we've cheated a little bit in that we didn't exactly take liberties, but we did it in our own style.
All right.
Which we know that people would want to read. So ours is very different, and rather than just go through it and put, did you know that there's a secret about the caves or whatever it is, we've actually taken it more for the tourist, more for people that are walking around the streets, and the way we approached it to sort of get our two styles together was really for me to actually do the physical writing of it from Joe's notes, his own research and whatever, and then put it together in a narrative. And this is what we've done. So rather than sort of picking up the book and reading about Nottingham Castle, then on the next page, we've done it as a constant narrative. And we've begun it,
I see it as not a traditional history book. I see it as a history guidebook. And basically the book is our work for the last 5 years or so, isn't it? We both write for various different publications. I write for Left Lion, the Bostonian magazine. You write for the Post Light, don't you?
Yes.
And of course our website. So the book is basically everything that we've published over the last few years, and we've put it into a book.
I see. So what's some of the stories then that you'll find in it?
We've begun it by bringing people to Nottingham.
Yeah.
So we started with a little tram journey.
Yeah.
Being as the tram is the sort of latest piece of Nottingham history, we began at the Park and Ride in Clifton and talked about what was on the Park and Ride, the history that was on that side. Being as that's the newest gateway to Nottingham, and then we've come in by tram and told the history of that route. And then from there we branched out into the city and
That's right.
told some of the tales in the city.
And we've got various different chapters, and we look at caves in one chapter. We look at street tale. If anyone's familiar with my articles in Left Lion, the street tales, we've put that into the book, but with more information. And the last chapter, we go on like an historical heritage walk around the city. We start around this area, don't we? And we go into the city itself, up the Mansfield Road, taking the reader on this invisible journey, almost like they're walking the route themselves.
What's one of the secrets that people would be quite surprised about?
Perhaps you don't know yourself that you're in one of the most historical parts of the city.
As in this building here on London Road?
Here. Yeah. Yes. You're on the very edge of perhaps the earliest settlement. So literally within sort of 500 yards
city. And then, of course, you've got the caves, you've got the Guys of Justice Museum, you've got the earliest routes into Nottingham, Garner's Hill, Mayland Hill, and it's very Stony Street. It's such an historical area of the city, and the oldest part of the city as well.
You're on the edge of
Stony Street is the oldest part of the city.
It's not the oldest part. Stony Street is the oldest road in the city.
One of the oldest thoroughfares in
One of the oldest
Nottingham.
thoroughfares in the Shire, probably.
Yeah.
It's part of the old route from the south. So you've got to realise it's when the biggest secret about Nottingham is where it is. And if you look at a map of England, not of Britain, but look at a map of England, and you'll find that Nottingham is almost dead centre. And you've got the Trent, which is one of the chapters in our book is about the Trent, the River Trent, which runs, although it's some distance from Nottingham, it's got this east-west alignment, so it forms a natural barrier between north and south of England.
Yeah. Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating. Thank you to the pair of you for coming in. It's
That's
good to
okay.
have you here. You're listening to Frank and Joe Earp there, talking about their book, where they've had a look at some secrets in Nottingham. The time is 27 minutes past.